if Usyk wins, still I want to see Joshua against Tyson if they accept. And I will not try to do the third fight before having Tyson and Joshua.
In a shocking interview, His Excellency Turki Alalshikh disclosed his plans to organize the Battle of Britain between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. Meanwhile, excited about this upcoming bout between two of the biggest fighters in the heavyweight division, notable boxing analyst Spencer Oliver emphasized how this fight involving Fury and Joshua without doubt will be one of the biggest fights we have ever seen in the division, as both fighters will be coming off from their own difficult battles to take part in the ultimate unification fight, which will eventually crown one of them as the reigning king. Spencer stated, "If AJ goes and wins that title, or Daniel keeps that title, and we got Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury on December 21st for all the other titles, we're going to get an undisputed fight again." Recollecting Anthony's performances so far, it is apparent that the famed British boxer has had countless obstacles in his quest for greatness, the biggest one being himself and his supposed lack of confidence in his abilities. However, in his recent fights, especially against Francis Ngannou and Otto Wallin, he seems to be overcoming this deficiency by changing his usual strategy for something a bit more tactful, which allows him to get an edge over his opponents. Highlighting the same ideas, Spencer stated that for a fighter who is at such a pinnacle, it is important to have no self-doubt, as that allows them to become the best versions of themselves. Spencer said, "You gotta have that self-belief as a fighter. If you've left any stone unturned, you start doubting yourself. He's Joshua delivering because he's active. He believes in himself, in his corner, and everything around him is good." He added, "He's positive, and that self-belief is giving him confidence in his own ability, and when he's like that, he's a dangerous, dangerous guy." Also looking forward to the battle, Tyson Fury recently shared a rather humorous call-out to Anthony Joshua, warning the fighter to get prepared for the ultimate Battle of Britain and to sign the official contract, otherwise he will be considered as nothing more than a coward who ran away from one of the biggest fights in his career simply because he knew that he will face a mortifying defeat.
But Donald Trump, what do you think, Donald, about this fight with AJ?
Well, it's gonna happen. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on you, AJ. You gotta sign the contract. 60-40, it's very fair. It's extremely fair. Sign the contract. It's not that hard.
Mike, what do you think AJ should do in this fight?
Well, simple, sign the contract. I mean, it's going to be the British mega fight, the Battle of Britain. Come on, AJ. I'm a heavyweight legend, and I would have signed this contract if I was in my prime, you know, so just do it.
Now, this might not be the first time that there have been certain exchanges and call-outs between these two fighters, as just a few weeks back, Turkey arranged a FaceTime call for both of them to generate certain hype around this potential bout that he plans to organize possibly in the first or second quarter of 2025.
In the first or the second quarter of 25. Okay, AJ waiting for you, and the world waiting for you.
Good, can't wait.
This can't wait.
I can see that on telephone. I've got proof of as well.
This fight between the British elites has been a fan favorite for many years, with fans incessantly demanding the authorities and the fighters themselves to organize this. And now, with the involvement of His Excellency in the British boxing scene with the debut of Riyadh's season card in Wembley, this much-coveted vision might come true, as during his interview with TalkSport Boxing, His Excellency disclosed his plans of making this big fight happen after fulfilling his recent commitments. His Excellency stated, "For the business, of course, it will be a huge fight if Joshua wins, his third time winning a world title, and after the result of Usyk versus Fury, it will be a huge fight. But you don't know about the future." Quite stubborn about making this happen, Turkey emphasized how though they cannot predict the possible outcome of the upcoming fights between AJ and Dubois and the anticipated battle between Usyk and Fury, he will not step back from this offer even if AJ and Fury are not successful in winning their respective bouts. Turkey stated, "Imagine Tyson, after the fight with Usyk, wants to retire. I will give him the offer, but if he refuses, what can I do? If Usyk wins, still I want to see Fury versus Joshua, if they accept." Though the guardian angel of boxing might have positive intentions in making this happen, many fans and analysts have pointed out how there might be some hurdles in Turkey's plans, with the main one being Tyson's ultimate decision of retiring altogether, which will be an understandable move considering how, if he gets defeated once again by the Ukrainian devil, the fire that drives him to move forward will ultimately be extinguished, resulting resulting in a beaten-down fighter with nothing else to give. Another point that seems to cause quite a dispute among the boxing community is Turkey's clear dismissal of organizing a third fight between AJ and Usyk, which seems to make more sense if we observe the current path that Anthony is on, where he wants to lay rest to his past demons so he can move forward as a proud world champion. Turkey added, "I will not try to do the third fight between Usyk and Joshua before having Fury versus Joshua. I want to see Fury versus Joshua, and the world wants to see Fury versus Joshua." Sharing the same opinion as numerous others, prominent boxer and broadcasting legend Adam Smith stated how although this fight between AJ and Tyson would be great in market value and might be enough to satisfy the casual boxing fans for some time, the real fight that the fans want to see is the trilogy between AJ and Usyk. Adding on to his statement, Adam stated how the main point where AJ's career started to derail was his loss against Usyk, and that was followed by another brutal one against the same fighter that lit up a fire inside Anthony to redeem himself by defeating the Ukrainian fighter, which will not only make him a unified world champion, but it will also help AJ grow as a fighter.
That's a really good question. The casual fans will always say AJ Fury. We want AJ Fury because it's the two best in Britain and they're the opposites, and it's been talked about for years. So the casual fan, the sports casual fan, wants AJ Fury.
Dan Raphael, who is a notable boxing reporter, also seemed to be skeptical about this fight as he divulged in a rather shocking detail about this being somewhat planned even before the rematch and AJ versus Dubois was scheduled. According to Dan, the overall setup leading up to this fight seems as if it has been planned by various executives and His Excellency for the sole purpose of creating a lucrative deal for themselves, as the more suitable fight for the boxers is something different, such as a trilogy with Usyk for AJ.
If Turki Alalshikh has his way, they want Joshua to win the fight and make that fight that we've all wanted to see and make it once again for Undisputed. If you saw, they had Anthony Joshua with Turkey before the press conference, hitting up Tyson Fury on a FaceTime call, basically rooting him on. You got to win the rematch so we can make the fight. So I'm not saying it's scripted, Michelle, but that's what everybody that's involved, the business side, wants to happen. Not Usyk, of course, but that's what they're sort of angling.
Meanwhile, on the other hand, Eddie Hearn believes that this is an excellent opportunity for the fighters and the boxing fans, as they will get the opportunity to witness a once-in-a-lifetime bout between two of the best fighters in this generation. Being AJ's promoter for quite some time, Eddie emphasized how the mutual atmosphere at their camp is first completely focusing on the upcoming fight with Dubois on 21st September, as that will be the deciding factor of what Anthony decides to do next and who he moves one to fight with. Eddie stated, "All he's got on his mind is Dubois, obviously winning the world heavyweight title, but I know that if he wins September 21, the only fight he will want is the winner of Usyk Fury." Eddie also addressed the comments on how this fight might not be something that Anthony really wants. He clarified how the ultimate choice of the next opponent will not be made by the executives or stakeholders at Matchroom, but it will be given to Anthony, as he will be the one who issues the final verdict of whether he wants to go into the fan-favorite battle of Britain with Fury, or he wants to go on a personal route of facing Usyk for the third time. He also weighed in on the significance of AJ and Fury winning in their own fights before this eventful bout could take place, stating how, if Tyson loses, he would prefer to retire before facing any further humiliation, whereas if AJ faces defeat, his motive will be to face Dubois for a possible rematch. However, unfortunately, if for some reason both of them lose in their fights, then the market value of a big battle will wither down, as no one wants to see two defeated fighters again. Eddie said, "He's always wanted to fight Fury, he'll definitely do it, but to fight Fury for Undisputed, going in as a belt holder against the unified champion, that would be immense." He added, "I believe he will fight Tyson Fury, win or lose against Usyk, in December, but he'll also want to fight Usyk for Undisputed. That's always been his dream. If Usyk were to win, I think AJ would want to fight Usyk, but I think he'd also be under a lot of pressure to fight Fury pending what happens in that fight." Understanding the importance of the impact that this fight will have on the fighter's career, a notable analyst and head presenter at DAZN Official, Adi Oladipo, stated how this fight will no doubt be an event that will be talked about by the future generation. However, there is still a tremendous risk for both of the fighters going into the fight. Talking about AJ, Ade pointed out how with his fight with Dubois closer than ever, this recent statement from Turkey might have caused an extended load on his shoulders, as he now seems to view this fight as a do-or-die situation.
Exactly what he's got to do. Look what Lennox Lewis did. He's the greatest heavyweight we've produced, and he went and right the wrongs twice, Oliver McCall and Hasim Ratman, and he got badly knocked out, and people were writing him off, and he went back back to the drawing board did it. It's further down the line for Tyson Fury in his career, but as Simon said, he's been absolutely brilliant, and the best thing now would be to dust himself down, get back in there, and try and...
Sharing the dreadful consequences that a defeat against Dubois might have on AJ, Aid warned how at the point that Anthony is at right now, a defeat of this caliber has the potential to stop his journey of becoming a world champion and Hall of Famer once and for all, as he has already faced a little too many hiccups, and in case of a lose, especially against a younger fighter like Dubois, people might not be ready to give him another chance to prove himself as the fighter that he claims to be. AD stated, "If AJ loses, it's done. AJ only wants to fight at the top table. If you get beaten by Dubois, you have to start again. He has to kind of have the year that he's just had. I don't think he's willing and wants to do that again, that run. I don't think he will do it again. It doesn't even bear to think about this." During his interview with TalkSports, Aid highlighted another key aspect that appears to be a common criticism about Turki, about how the Saudi giant seems to often ignore the technical aspects when he proposes a fight, because though the fights might be well received by the general public, they still create massive issues for the fighters and the sanctioning bodies who are left to deal with the outcome of these hasty and inconsiderate decisions.
One thing that's clear is that the sanctioning bodies, the governing bodies, if I'm them, I'm sort of quaking in my boots, because he seems to have now decided to ignore whatever they want to do in terms of, okay, you put yourself in a mandatory position, you fight him or you fight her and you fight that person next. It's almost Dana White-esque in the UFC, where it's now a case of you will fight this person because that's the fight to make and it's the fight the fans want, which is quite refreshing.
Moving on to the bout, which will eventually decide who moves forward and whose dreams are crushed forever, this new factor of Fury fight seems to have created another buzz in the boxing community regarding the bout between AJ versus Dubois, with analysts and experts sharing their takes on who might prosper in the end. Frank Warren, who is the promoter of Daniel, recently disclosed his views about a supposed sparring session that took place between Anthony and Dubois in the earlier days of their careers, stating how he might not fully reveal what took place, but it was enough for him to believe that Daniel is a massive threat and is capable enough in taking down a fighter like Anthony, allegedly indicating that the outcome of this supposed sparring session was most probably in Daniel's favor. Frank stated, "I know it. Joshua knows it as well. Don't worry about that. Listen, Joshua, knows him. He sparred with him. There is this big debate about what happened in that sparring, and I have heard two versions of it." He added, "One of the reasons we signed him, Dubois, and I sponsored him was because of what I was being told, and that is from the people who were there." Aware of the discussions about a possible fight between AJ and Fury, Frank seemed to have absolute confidence that this would not happen anytime in the future, as AJ will not triumph so easily against Dubois as he thinks he would. Issuing a classic knockout warning to Eddie and AJ, Frank stated that though Dubois might be younger and less experienced than an Olympic medalist, he is still a dangerous fighter who has the power to take down notable world champions, just like Anthony Joshua. Talking about sparring sessions, Fravor Clark has recently disclosed how he has a certain knowledge of the fighters and their possible moves in this fight based on the sparring sessions he has had with them both. While preparing for his rematch against Fabio Wardley, Fraser weighed in on the recent sparring session that he shared with Daniel Dubois, stating how though there is no doubt in his mind that Daniel is extremely strong, he still seems to lack a certain tactical prowess which is a necessity when you are facing an intuitive fighter like AJ. He stated, "As a boxing fan, you look forward to it, and obviously everyone knows about my history. I've done a lot of rounds with AJ and I did a couple with Daniel last week, so it's good to have a look and have a good perspective of where the fight is." He added, "He's an intense individual, he's very focused, he's in great shape from what I have seen. We had a really competitive spar. He's not the smartest fighter in the world, he's more of an impulsive fighter, so I think that might help him at times, but maybe he might have to use a bit of common sense and knowledge in this fight with AJ." Talking about the attributes that Daniel possesses that might aid him in this fight, Fraser recollected how the young fighter seems to have gotten more confident in himself over time, especially after his extraordinary win against Filip Hrgović, where he displayed unprecedented power and boxing IQ. Fraser added that if Daniel keeps up with this newly attained attitude and learns to defend himself properly, he might have a chance of defending his IBF title by beating Anthony Joshua. He stated, "He has got destructive power, he is really heavy-handed, and I don't think he overthinks too much anymore. I think he understands that, and he's learned that if he lets his hands go and hit, things fall over." Chris Algeriri, who is a former professional fighter and world champion, seems to think that the sparring match that both fighters indulged in might have more importance than it is currently being given, as after fighting someone inside a ring, even for only a few rounds with protective gear on, changes the perspective of the real fight because you have learned certain things about one another which can't be explained in theory or by watching supposed fighting tapes.
And with the stoppage loss to Usyk, to Usyk, in which there was a lot going on that night. But listen, in hindsight, when you look back at how good Usyk is, I think you're going to get more of a pass on that. But Dubois has shown that he has stepped up and turned a corner. Now, the fact that these guys have sparred together, that means something. I've fought several sparring partners in real fights in my career. It changes. It changes the dynamic. It changes your mindset going into the fight. And as we know, even going into the Andy Ruiz fight, Joshua apparently had some issues in sparring, got hurt. So that's not the most foreign thing that Joshua could have been hurt or was touched up in a sparring session. So I think it does add another layer to this. But either way, I think it's a great fight.
Applauding Daniel for the growth he has displayed in the last couple of months, Chris added on how despite being an apparent underdog, Dubois is a very strong and brawny fighter who is not only considered one of the best punchers in the heavyweight division, but also that he has shown tremendous improvement in his footwork, which might be a great thing going into a fight with AJ, who is notorious for his ability to draw out fighters from their comfort zones to strike them when they are at their most vulnerable.
I actually agree. I think Dubois is a very dangerous puncher. He's big. He's a true super heavyweight. He's going to be pretty much eye to eye with punch for punch with Joshua in terms of power. He's one of the bigger punchers in the division today and is a very dangerous guy. And he showed durability too.
Chris also alluded to the Dubois versus Hrgovic fight, drawing comparisons to how before that fight, people were also undermining Daniel, calling him weak. But with a tenacious spirit, the young fighter showed everyone how he is one of the best fighters in the division, by not only bullying Hrgovic throughout the fight, but also knocking him out in the end to solidify his position as a world champion.
In that Hrgovic fight, he took a lot of big right hands from Hrgovic and fought a really, really gritty fight where he had to dig down deep, show a lot of chin, show a lot of heart. He was a big underdog in that fight. I was rating Hrgovic very highly, and Dubois basically beat the bully that night, bullied the bully. And that was very impressive for me, and I think this is a very dangerous fight. And I think Joshua and his team understands that.
Agreeing with the points made by his fellow analyst, Paulie Malignaggi shared his take about this bout, seemingly commending both the fighters for the obstacles that they have overcome over the span of their careers by not letting the negative hinder them from their dreams. He stated, "I like the fight for a lot of reasons. The momentum of these two guys is a big reason both of these guys have had to overcome a negative spell in their career, so to speak, and then to be able to show the character that they've shown is impressive." He added, both guys have had to go through that negativity where their self-esteem, their self-confidence, their self-worth was sort of mentally challenged. Paulie also reflected on the importance that the time of this fight seems to have for fighters, as they both are not only in the best physical shape that they have ever been, but also because they both seem to have gotten to a point where they are confident in their abilities as notable fighters. Paulie said, "I think he's Joshua looking amazing for the fight, the best he's looked. With Dubois, we're seeing him sort of live up to the expectation that was always expected of him, that was always talked about with him, so we're going to wonder if he can continue to rise at that point. I think it's a great fight, and that it is happening at a great time for both guys where they're both at their most confident." So in the end, what do you guys think about the plans presented by His Excellency about orchestrating AJ versus Fury? Do you think it is a good fight for AJ, or do you believe that this is nothing but an attempt at making a profitable deal for the stakeholders and executives while ignoring the fighters' wishes? Make sure to tell us about your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel.